Welcome to Life in the Music Business, a masterclass with Professor Pooch and your host, BACEFACE.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to Life in the Music Business with Professor Pooch. And I forgot what I was going to say, but...
You forgot who you are.
Can you believe it? Already from the beginning. But yeah, it's your host, BACEFACE. I'm here with Professor Pooch. Pooch, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. One weird thing I ran into, because I don't do my own copyrights too much anymore, but I had to do one, and boy, the price went up. It's now, instead of $55 for all those years, now it's $65.
Yeah, they're going
and
up.
Yep, and well, like everything else, it's, you're paying people, you're paying this, there's a lot of people that actually work there. I think my cousin works in archives, folk archives. They do so much there with the whole copyright office. It's insane. By the way, one thing that does come up, people say, well, can I save money by doing collections? And yes and no. I ran into a problem personally, and now here's the rule of thumb on whether to do things as a collection, where you can put like up to 10 songs, for example, for one price.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is that what happens is that every song is going to, all of them are going to have the same registration number. Now, I ran into a problem with this, and it goes back to around 1980, when a publisher wanted 3 of my songs. And I used to do them by the collections. I did 10 at a time, okay? It'd be Pooch's Top 10, I'd call it, or something. You have to give it like an album title or whatever. And they wanted 3 of them, which caused a problem, because all of a sudden I had to re-register the other ones because they all had the same registration number. So that could be a problem. The rule of thumb is basically this. If it's rap or thrash rock or something that people don't normally cover, you could do it as a collection of songs. But if it's something that somebody else could possibly do, like pop or dance or rhythm and blues, stuff like that. So what other people might do, you might want to keep it separately. What I recommend is, if you're doing like an album of stuff, you're doing a whole album, do the songs individually, but do the album as a collection, because that's a sound recording. That's that circle with the P you see on the recordings and stuff like that, or wherever listed.
Yeah, I actually have a funny story about that. So back when I first started registering my songs, I used to register them as collections and be able to get away with a lot of the headroom that they were giving us in the beginning. Like, I think it was like 2014, 2015 was about like, it was almost like 100 megabytes or something. So because I was uploading MP3s and I was making beats all the time, I was able to upload like 50, 60 songs in one collection.
They don't allow you to do that anymore.
No, they caught me. Yeah, they caught me last year trying to do that. And I figured it was the same, and it wasn't.
Well, I had a weird one also with, you do books. My books would be Form TX back in the day and stuff. And I would do the books as a collection because it's a whole curriculum. It's the music business curriculum.
Yeah.
And they won't let me I have to do each one separately now, where I used to be able to do them as a collection.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Yeah, it's too
because I just want to use that, I'm having to use the same reference number. And by the way, the reason you want to register with Washington, just a reminder, one of those constant reminders from the Pooch, is basically, in case it ever goes to court, you have a registration number and a date. Boy, it saves some of my clients major messes, believe me.
Yeah, because sometimes the files themselves aren't enough. I mean, like we spoke about before in one of the episodes, how there are people specifically in the industry that just make sure, and they're kind of like the crooked side of the industry, where they'll check to see if your song that's charting on Billboard or whatever, to see what the registration thing is behind it. Because if it's not registered, they'll try to steal that song from you, and you got to make sure that you can always protect yourself.
And you're right, because see, it is public record. In other words, anybody can find this information out. So you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's important. And that, even for a lot of people that I don't know, that goes for social media too. All of your information that you put out there is public record, and they're able to sell it and use it for whatever. So be careful what you say out there, because sometimes you might regret it in 10 years.
Well, there's a lot of people who've been arrested because they posted pictures of themselves in the crime and stuff like that. Yeah. You got to be careful. My thing is, I just never post personal kinds of stuff. It's
there's a way to be private, but also public at the same time, and that's typically the approach I take, because I have a lot of stuff like, I don't really post like some of my family stuff, and like I try to keep my personal life separate than everything that I do in the public eye, because that's how I try to like separate it.
Yeah, well, the problem I ran into, I was they updated their Facebook thing and whatever, and I figured, okay, I should tell the people I'm married. So I listed that I got married, and they posted it all over the place that I got married that day. And all these people, congratulations, Pooch, you found something. Man, I've been with her 30 years.
It's hilarious, because that was like one of the highest liked posts that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I had 457 on my friend's page. I remember I look at it, oh no. And I tried explaining to people, and I got tired of explaining it, so I just started saying, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Luckily nowadays they actually recommend the comments, so they'll almost type it for you. You have to go through the 400 people and.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, my thing is, if it's personal, send an email. I'm even careful on Facebook Messenger of what I post. I'll only post so much, but you get to be a little more private on Messenger.
Yeah, for sure. But even then, there was a lot, like thinking back to like 2014, 2013, around that time, it was really easy to get engagement and that type of stuff. There wasn't really a process of how to filter through the engagement. And now, fast forward to 2020, they really only give you about 10%, allow 10% of your followers or audience to actually see your content. So that's why the whole ad thing got implemented, and it's a huge thing in the industry right now, because everybody's paying for this stuff.
Well, yeah, they want you to, part of it's ad things, but also that's why it's really important. Facebook is more apt to keep posting it wider and wider if you use video, pictures, or you get a lot of comments. So that's why I always tell people it's important. If somebody comments to you, comment back. And I'll sometimes, put further explanations on stuff I even post so that it goes further, because I'm trying to educate people. I want them to spread.
Yeah, of course. And that's
but they want you to pay for ads.
Yeah, they do. But you can do it organically, but it's a totally different ballgame, especially when they keep changing all the algorithms and stuff. So it's kind of, for that type of advice, I would just stay up to date with that, everything that goes on. You can follow like medium.com has a lot of good like sources for that type of stuff. And you can just look over the internet and be able to figure out how to actually market properly.
Yeah, you're right. Medium is very good for that kinds of thing. So what are we covering today?
So today we are covering metadata. We're going to talk about the MMA, MLC. And if you want, could you define those acronyms for people in case they don't know what they are? Okay.
Well, several years ago, they started this MMA because everybody was complaining about the collection of monies. It's the Music Modernization Act. And out of that, to not make it a hours and hours long session, but what happened is they formed, I don't like what happened exactly and how it was done, but they formed the MLC, which is the Music Licensing Collective. And they are responsible for taking care of all the mechanicals. Now, this brings up an important topic for people to know and understand. A lot of people don't know what the word mechanicals means, and now it has an extra meaning. In the old days, mechanicals means anything played on a mechanical device, like a CD, vinyl, cassette, something needed a physical device. But now there's another end that people don't know and understand, where the Music Licensing Collective comes in very handy. And that is that, let's say you're on Pandora or on FM radio or something like that. You don't have a choice what you listen to. They just play whatever's playing. And if it's an internet station, it's considered streaming. But if it's like a Spotify or a YouTube, when you purposely ask for a specific song, that's called interactive, and that streaming is also considered a download. And even though it has nothing mechanical about it, it's on the internet. It's handled, by the way, by the Harry Fox agency and stuff. But sticking to the point of the MLC, you either have to join directly or make sure the people that you're hiring to do your distribution that are also taking care of your publishing administration are signing you up to the MLC, because as of January 2021, they're going to be collecting many, many countries worth of data. That I always say data because I think of Commander Data, but data, whatever way you want to pronounce it. But they're going to be collecting all this licensing stuff. And people don't understand the difference of who's collecting what for where. Now, the MLC is going to be doing this, where you choose which song you want, that kinds of things, and certain streaming things like that. At the same point, you have your ASCAP and BMI, which is strictly streaming. Now, so that's the two differences. And a lot of people don't know that with publishing, they think, oh, you sign with ASCAP or BMI, it covers all my publishing money. No, it doesn't. It doesn't cover any kind of licensing, like for TV, film, video games, commercials, elevator music, whatever, wherever you're licensing something through contracts and stuff, ASCAP and BMI have nothing to do with. And that's why people need to learn this different kinds of stuff. It's just very important. And by the way, just like, then you have Sound Exchange, which handles what ASCAP and BMI, CSAC, etc., do for the songwriter and publisher. Sound Exchange at soundexchange.com handles for the artist, collecting streaming money for the artist and the record company. And this is all important information. You got to make sure, like, I believe CD Baby, if you go with CD Baby Pro, for example, DistroKid, I think both of them use Song Trust, which would automatically put you with the MLC. But you got to make sure if whoever's administering for you is not handling the MLs, signing up with the MLC, they need to track your stuff. And by the way, that brings up the metadata. This is very, very important, folks, because let me backtrack just a hair to ASCAP and BMI. A lot of people sign up for ASCAP and BMI and they say, oh, okay, they're collecting all my stuff. No, they're not. You got to list every single song that you're releasing to the public. You got to list each one. And it gives you very important metadata. Now, how do you put your metadata into the recordings so that they can track it? Well, at the mixing or mastering stage of your recording, it's very, very important. I say mixing or mastering. A lot of times done mastering, but there's certain engineers that mix and master at the same time. There are software programs where they can put all this metadata in, and it's very, very important. You should have in there your ISRC code. What is ISRC? It's a standard recording code for every recording you're putting out. Now we're talking about recording now, okay? And then you have the the music version of it, okay? ISWC, it's works, musical works. And what that code does is you get one for each song as it's being released. All this stuff, and the names of the artists, the names of the songwriters, the names of the producer. You want to put everything you can into this metadata, and you have to tell your engineer at the mixer mastering stage if they're doing both, okay? And I would get into arguments with people in that, because to me, if you're not a mix, you can master. It's just, you have to know how. You have to have really good ears. But because like the engineer I use a lot of times for my mixing, he masters at the same time. It's one step. But you got to make sure they put this metadata in, because they can't track you if they can't find you. Sound Exchange at one point had hundreds of millions of dollars because they couldn't pay anybody because they didn't know who it was. Yeah, that's why everything's got to be registered. I know it's a pain in the neck sometimes, but it's stuff that's very, very important.
It's a real way to get paid. I mean, and doing the right thing and playing by the rules you need to play is not always easy, but when you take that extra time to make sure all your stuff is registered across all the platforms and stuff like that, you'll never have any monies missing or anything not being paid to you or to your company because you took the time to do it.
Yeah, and the MLC will take care of that thing of making sure you get this when you go to Spotify. Somebody goes to Spotify to play your song, that it's listed as a download, basically. It sounds funny, though it's streaming, it's considered a download. It gets really weird, boy, I'll tell you. It's really weird trying to keep track of this, but that's why they pay me the big bucks, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And I'm trying to pass on the information to everybody.
And that's what brings us here to Life in the Music Business. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that this is something that everybody's going to be able to continue to listen to forever. I mean, there's always something to learn from every episode or anything that we release content wise. You can always have it reiterated for you until it becomes second nature for you.
You said it perfectly. Yeah, it should become second nature. That's why people say, well, Pooch, you already talked a little about that. And I warn people, I'm purposely repeat certain things that I think are very important. You'll notice the tone of my voice, that it's important that you know this stuff so you don't screw up your, you want to get paid. It's back to my be respected, protected, and paid, Yeah. I mean, pooches have to eat too. I got to make sure I do all this stuff too. It's a lot of work sometimes, but pooches need to eat too. What I want to do at this point, why don't we, I want to jump into this other topic, and because it can get carried away and it's a very interesting and important topic. This is very timely, and it's all about something that most people have never heard of. It's called the Controlled Composition Clause. You'll never see those in a contract, and this has to do with record company contracts. And it's one of those things that you might see mechanical licensing. All right, how does this all come about? Why is this important, and why am I bringing it up? Well, first of all, let me just explain what it is. Because for a record company to record your song, they have to get the song licensed by the publisher. Now, where this controlled give them permission to record the song. Remember, there's two separate copyrights, folks, two separate copyrights. So what happens is that they got to get permission, okay. But where this, and why I'm bringing up this topic, the Controlled Composition Clause in a record company contract has been screwing artists for years.
Mm.
Now, a big change has happened. Hopefully, it's happened. BMG just released, it was this week, that they're finally going to pay the artists who are also the songwriters the full amount of money. Now you're wondering, what are you talking about? Well, in this controlled composition clause, it states that, well, the artist is signed to us, so you control the composition, and since you wrote it, we're only going to pay you 3/4 the amount of what we're supposed to pay you according to copyright law. Folks, they've been breaking copyright law for years, and it's never been able to get thrown out. By you signing that contract, instead of that 9.1 cents on mechanicals that you should have been paid, you were getting 6.825 cents. I actually remember all these numbers, and it's been 9.1 cents forever. So BMG says, look, we're tired of artists getting screwed. BMG, by the way, used to be part of Sony, and now they reorganized BMG. I'm not gonna, but it's a major kind of label. And we're going to be paying them the full 9.1 cents. And we would like to see all the other labels do the same thing for their artists, where the artists are the writers or publishers, that they get that full 9.1 cents instead of the 6.6825 cents. And you think, that's like nothing. Folks, it adds up when you start selling good amounts. What they're not telling you, besides that, are the other things that are still in this controlled composition clause that you're going to say, Nat's here or something. What you're going to say, what? I'll give you some examples that are also, this clause, folks, goes like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 paragraphs sometimes. First of all, did you know that if you read through it, it's going to say, we will pay you, the songwriter part. This all has to do with the artist that's a songwriter, but we're looking at the songwriter part of it. We're going to pay you for 10 songs for the album. But I have 16 songs on my album. Well, those other 6 songs, we'll pay you, but we're going to take it out of other parts of your income, which we'll get into the cross collateralization, but we'll hold off on that for a second. But so picture this: 10 songs, and you want to have 16. Some people put 18 or 20. You're not going to get paid for mechanicals for those other songs. Now, I've been able to negotiate it that it'll go up to 12 songs or something. But still, folks, I mean, you're not getting paid for all the songs you're going to have on that album. And it gets worse from there. But go ahead, you were going to say something?
No, it's just blowing my mind.
Yeah, it gets worse. Let's say you didn't write the songs. Okay? They're going to another publisher or somebody else that has nothing to do under your control. You have no control over it. So you're using somebody else's songs. What they were doing, they had to pay those publishers the full 9.1 cents, and they took the difference of the 6.825 cents to 9.1 cents out of your monies. Oh, yeah. Oh, you can go down this list. That's why I always tell people, do your own songs, because otherwise they're paying, they're taking out of your money. Now, this word cross collateralization comes in. People say, what? It's a word you're never going to see in any contract. What it means in simple English is they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So what they're going to say, they're not going to say control composition any place. You'll never see that word. I remember when I used to teach it in school, the Art Institute, it would take up 2 boards. The word was so long, cross collateralization. What they're doing is, say you're making good money through the publishing and songwriting end, but you still owe a lot of money for the recordings to get recorded because you use these special studios and you wanted to have all your friends there and they're paying for everything. They're going to take the money you made from the publishing. You don't get it because they're paying themselves off. They're taking it, robbing your Peter, which is your songwriter's money, to pay the money you still owe the record company.
Wow. So you never really end up on top. You never really make the money that you're supposed to.
Well, I keep telling people, do things independently, folks. You don't have to run into any of this kinds of stuff. You know, own your own recordings, pay yourself. It's worth putting out and finding a way to pay for your own recordings. That's the safest, best way to do things. You'll know where every penny goes. Because let's say if it even cost you a couple $1,000. Now, I know it could sound like a lot, but a couple $1,000. But with a record company, people say, oh man, I got all this recording money and stuff. Believe me, you're never going to see a penny until you pay every cent back. By the way, you'll never see the word cross collateralization. What they put in there is something to this effect. We can take money from any and all sources. And that's saying cross collateralization. So, you know, we can pay ourselves back. They're not going to put it that way. They put it in their legalese, crazy stuff. But what they're saying is, you know, any expenses, you wanted to have this fancy recording and stuff like that. Oh, we can get into recording funds. That gets even hairier. When people think they're getting a ton of money and they never see any of it. You know, up front, oh, we're giving you $6-8 million to sign up, you know, with our record company, you know, and all this. Wow, all that money. But there's what is known as a recording advance and a personal advance. They usually lump them together and they're saying, well, look, folks, we'll take out of your recording, you know, we'll give you a recording advance, and whatever you have left over is your personal advance. Now, you're really going to see $8 million. You have to see at least $1 million, would be nice or so. But believe it or not, some sessions, and you record it, you want to record at the best places where you're paying, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Plus, what they'll also do is, well, we want you to use some of our songwriters, and we're paying this producer in advance to produce your song. We're paying them $150,000 for that track. Believe it or not, you know, I know there's beat makers out there and producers out there that want $50 or $150 a track or something, you know. There's these producers that are very successful. They're getting ridiculous sums of money. And if you're using their songs, even though the record company's making you use their songs, you might end up with nothing.
This is crazy. I mean, it just goes to show why you need to be on top of your business.
Oh, that's where you have to come to somebody like me. I'm a contract specialist. I'm not a lawyer, but I handle all kinds of contracts. Or go to an entertainment attorney that's really up to date in the music business and all that's going on. But you got to make sure with that controlled composition clause that if you want to have 16 songs, you're going to get paid for those 16 songs, you know, like I was just talking about. Or that they're going to give you the full 9.1 cents. You've got to have somebody that negotiates, because what happens, and I understand this, a young person will see all this money that they're going to give you, and then they'll give you this 80-page contract. And I'm not exaggerating. I've seen 80-page contracts from major labels because I have to negotiate them. So I understand them. I hate that. But there could be something on page 3 that's turned on its end on page 42. It's happened plenty of times. You know, like I think I might have mentioned in one of the shows, you know, the time starts upon delivery of your recording. But if you look on page 42, delivery means acceptable to them. So if they don't like it for whatever reason, it's not considered delivered. So your contract keeps going on and on and on. I've had people, this true story, 3 times in the last 5 years or so, where people thought they were out of a contract that hadn't officially begun yet, because the record company never released anything, so they could say that, oh, well, you know, it's not delivered under what we consider the term delivered.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I feel like the number one attraction to major labels is being able to have that huge marketing budget behind you and the radio play and all that stuff. I mean, that's really the only reason that I feel people really sign to labels nowadays, because of that power that they still have.
Oh yeah, and what's the power? But you know, this you got to see what money that shouldn't come out of your money. Like you said, very importantly, promotion and stuff. By the way, there was something there's this thing called payola, and if you ever could find a copy, it's from the 1990s. It was called The Hitmen, and it's not about killers. It's about the hitmen, about music. These independent producers who would pay the radio stations to play the songs. And it just came out in the news. There were some texts that were sent that were intercepted to these radio people saying, hey, we gave you some money and stuff, you know, with some code there, but we had some money. We expect our song to be played 15 times for over a night, not 5 times. You know, we gave you all this, you know, that's illegal, folks. It's called payola. It's come up so many times through the years. And what happens is the record companies try to escape the blame. They hire independent promoters. And the independent promote, but they're paying them, and the independent promoters are paying the radio stations to play your stuff.
Yeah, it happens a lot I started off in the DJ community in electronic music, so paying to play was a huge thing, and I know a lot of people that actually use that to get ahead in their career by paying it was basically what would happen is, like, say you have to buy 100 tickets, they're $25 each. I mean, $2,500 up front. And
Exactly. They had different ways of doing it. The joke was there was this guy in Philly, and the Philly Sound stuff, what he would do, he had some money in on the, I'm not going to start naming names, but he owned a suit factory. And he would, instead of money, he would give people new suits and stuff like that. But, you know, I mean, there's so many stories of that. Oh, one of my favorite stories, though, and it's interesting in that, see, United States is plain out illegal, okay? But people still do it. I have this client in Switzerland who wanted some stuff played in Russia. In Russia, they're wide open about it. You want us to play your song? 25,000 rubles, please. You know? Wide out in the open, you know what I mean? Because they have some kind of I don't know. But folks, you need to learn this stuff and know, and just as importantly, how to use this stuff, you know? Oh,
so I can speak that from my own personal experiences. Like, I didn't know anything about the business, and some people may have seen me as if I had fallen off by today's terms, but basically I sat behind the scenes, and at the time I had met Pooch, and I just learned the business to be able to now be able to take advantage of the songs that I'm making, and not just be sitting on an entire catalog of music and not know what to do with it.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. And that's one of the biggest things we want to push with our show is, yeah, we're giving you knowledge and stuff, but it's learning how to use it. See, and this is where I can give you examples of things that are happening and what you can ask for and stuff like that. And I know contracts can get into, you know, one of the curse words of music business people is contracts. In other words, the word commercial. I don't want to be commercial. I want to, you know, I want my integrity, you know, but you can have integrity, and commercial just means it sells. But folks, you got to take care and learn some of this stuff. I'm putting it all in simple language for you, so you're not going to have any major problems, but give it to somebody who really knows, you know, like me or you know, some entertainment attorney, because we're going to know, and you've heard me say this, and you'll hear me say it again, it's not only what's in a contract that can hurt you, it could be what's been left out of the contract that, if inserted correctly, can save your ass.
Mm-hmm. That's for a fact. That's for a fact. I remember the one time you read a contract for me, and it was somebody that I trusted. And I'm not going to name names, obviously, but the contract basically stated that if the person that I was giving my music to renamed it, like double-clicked the file and renamed it on their computer, now they were the owner of that new file.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, what that means is, see, you think, oh, they're going to say to you, oh, you can keep your publishing and your writing and stuff like that. We'll just call it something different, and we'll copyright it and protect it, register the copyright protected under a different name. But the problem is, then you have two versions out with the same name. I'm sorry, it's the same version, but under two different names. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Yeah, I have to say that. It gets so convoluted. But yeah, I mean, it's called, they have what are known as retitling libraries, where they place songs, to license your songs for TV and film and commercials and stuff. Well, they'll just change the name, and you got to read it. They have to listen to the contract, but you got to see, oh, we'll just change the name of the song. You can keep it, but it's the same song under two different titles, and no major will touch it at that point. They'll say, wait a minute, this other publisher has it out. It's the same recording,
Get you into trouble. So you got to make sure you read your contracts. You never want to sign a contract that you did not read yourself and have other professionals read, because you can end up in a lot of sticky situations. Somebody else almost tried to sign me to a management contract for 7 years.
Yeah, well, no way, God, the worst I ever wrote for somebody, a manager, was 4 years. It's 1 year plus 4 years, but the option is for 5 years. But I still make sure there's an escape clause in there, and we talked about it in one of our other shows, I'm sure, where if forget the 5 years, forget the whatever, within 18 months, if they haven't done whatever you think is really important, you can get out of the contract.
Yep. And
Okay.
that was completely missing from this contract.
Yeah. Well, you rarely ever see an escape clause. They want to hold you. Look, it's very simple with all contracts, especially record company contracts. They want to hold you as long as possible under the original terms, which are real low. Let's say you become a big star, and all of a sudden they're making all the money and you're not making anything. That's why you hear about renegotiations and people saying they were going bankrupt. Oh boy, we can get into stories on that at some point in time.
Crazy.
And I think we've used up way over our time limit.
Yeah, we can cut some of this down, but
no, that's okay. We can keep it up. What the hell?
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for sticking in and tuning in to Life in the Music Business. Pooch, you know what to do.
Yeah, and before I say it, please tell everybody else about the show. Spread the word. We're going to be all over the place, posting every Tuesday and Friday. And until then, tune in for the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Tune in for the next episode.